Hey everybody, this is Bill. I'm the salty old Marine. Let's talk about sleep apnea. In a previous video, I mentioned that the VA is changing their disability rating for sleep apnea in 2025, and I urged everybody who's thinking about filing a claim for sleep apnea to go ahead and get that thing filed. But I didn't talk a whole lot about what sleep apnea is and how to go about filing and just all of that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that in this video. First of all, what's sleep apnea? Sleep apnea basically is when you stop breathing in the middle of the night, usually while you are snoring like that. Some of you who have a spouse or a partner, a long-term partner, they probably know all about your sleep apnea. That's certainly the case with me and my wife. My wife has told me for years that, yeah, I'm a heavy snorer, and that sometimes while I am snoring, I stop breathing, and it can go on for 10, 15 seconds. She gets scared and, thinks about giving me a poke or two just to make sure that I start breathing again. And it's also a dangerous medical condition because it can contribute to things like heart disease. I found that out later on, and that's basically why I finally went in to get myself tested. Because I got heart disease, I got atrial fibrillation, and my cardiologist was very serious about me getting a sleep study to find out if I had apnea or not, because that is such a heavy contributor to heart disease. So let's talk about it. So we know that sleep apnea is caused by not breathing for a period of time while you are asleep. Now, as a VA disability, at the current time, if you're diagnosed with sleep apnea and you are prescribed a CPAP machine, it is a 50% disability rating, which is a not insignificant amount of money. But how do you do it? Well, the actual diagnosis itself is fairly straightforward. You get what's called a sleep study. You can get that through the VA, you can get that through a private doctor. But basically, they wire you up either at home or in a special location, and they let you go to sleep. And then sometime during the night, you presumably stop breathing, and they track this. And when they do, then you are prescribed, or you are diagnosed rather, with sleep apnea. It can be moderate, it can be severe, but to the VA, sleep apnea is sleep apnea. If you are then diagnosed or prescribed what's called a CPAP machine. A CPAP is this device that you wear over your face, either over your nose or over your entire nose and mouth, and it basically provides positive airway while you're sleeping, right? So it's pushing air in while you're breathing, and it's letting go when you breathe out. And it's not the most comfortable thing in the world, trust me, but it stops you from having sleep apnea. It's considered a very, very good way of stopping sleep apnea. There's other ways as well. You can get surgery, various other things. I'll put some links in the description so you can look into that yourself. But the point is that the VA gives a disability for being diagnosed with sleep apnea and then being prescribed a CPAP machine. The final piece of that puzzle, however, is you have to create a nexus. We've talked about this before. You need an in-service event, you need a current diagnosis, and you need a connection between the two. That's called a nexus. So sleep apnea, how do you do that? Well, the best way is if you are diagnosed with sleep apnea while you are in the service. Now, to be honest, a lot of us probably did not get diagnosed with sleep apnea while in the service. Most of us were probably very young. Most of us were probably physically fit. Most of us probably were not snoring, or if we were, we didn't know or care whether or not we were stopping breathing in the middle of the night. It's not something you notice yourself. Other people notice it. So, yeah, probably none of us have that diagnosis while we're in service. Does that mean we can't get sleep apnea as a VA disability? No. It means we have to prove it another way. So other ways to prove it might be things like buddy letters. That is to say, a statement from someone with whom you served or who had intimate knowledge of your sleeping habits while you were in the service. So if you were married at that time and your spouse wrote a letter that said, yes, I heard this this veteran, this veteran sleeping and ceasing to breathe in the middle of the night, then that could be considered sufficient evidence. If you lived in a barracks and you had, barracks mates, or if you lived in enlisted quarters and you had roommates or whatever who are willing to write that letter, then that's another way to prove direct connection to the service connection for sleep apnea. However, there are other ways to prove it as well, such as a secondary condition. So in my case, I have a service connection for PTSD. PTSD might cause sleep apnea. So in my case, I have reached out to a psychologist who can write a nexus letter for me, and that letter will show the scientific studies and the other things that might prove that my current sleep apnea is connected to my service-connected PTSD. A secondary service connection is just as good to the VA as the original service connection. So whether you prove directly that it happened in service or you prove it through a secondary connection is the same to the VA. The ratings are the same. So we get the diagnosis. That means we had a sleep study done. We get the prescription for a CPAP machine and we use it. And we get the nexus. Once we have those things, then we can file our claim. At that point, you will most likely be scheduled for a C&P exam. You might, in fact, actually have to take another sleep study if the VA doesn't find the sleep study you had done previously by the VA or your private doctor to be sufficient. And that's pretty much it. So it's one of the easier claims once you get past the nexus part to get a VA disability rating for. And again, the VA rating for sleep apnea with a CPAP is 50%. And reinforcing what I said in a previous video, that's changing. It's going away because the VA's point of view on this is if you have a CPAP machine and it's effective, then you don't have sleep apnea anymore because it's good at fixing that problem, right? So if you don't have a current problem, then you get no disability. Now, I happen to disagree with this because wearing a CPAP machine is a burden, and it can certainly affect your ability to get a good night's sleep, and it can affect a lot of other things when you're hooked up like Darth freaking Vader to this stupid machine going all night long. It's no fun, trust me. So again, get that claim in before the VA disability rating changes in 2025. The word I hear is it's going to change in August of 2025. You can get your claim in before that, or you can get in an intent to file, and you'll have a full year from that date to finish making that claim and still be rated under the previous rules. So even if the rules have changed, you're still covered. So I hope you find this helpful. Sleep apnea, 50% rating, not terribly difficult to get if you have sleep apnea and you are prescribed a CPAP machine, but you need to get it done. You need to get it done right away. I'm Bill. I am the salty old Marine. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Thanks for watching. And as always, have a great day.